Hi, this is Ari Kopel and Serena, your show hosts of Shattering the Matrix. We're here today with wonderful guests, Bonnie Jean Mitchell and John Mitchell. I want to tell you a little bit about Bonnie and John. I just heard about them the other day through other radio shows that, brought up some important information that everyone needs to know. And it's not just about the people that are in the know or the spiritual community, but this is basically for all humanity, because the topic that we're going to discuss today really affects everyone. So Bonnie Jean Mitchell is a lifelong contactee who has interacted with friendly, multidimensional star people since she was a young child. She basically also has experienced negative alien abductions and military abductions known as MILABs. She did her first interview about alien abduction with the Edgar Cayce Foundation in 1993 and has been helping contactees and abductees ever since. In the year 2000, she graduated from the College of William and Mary and began working on her first book, Invitation to the Self, Journey with the Star People, published in 2005. Her website, alienabductionhelp.com, is a supportive environment for contactees and abductees. And then we have our wonderful John Mitchell, with a background in the U.S. Navy and U.S. Merchant Marines, traveled to the infamous Area 51 in Nevada and filmed dozens of daytime UFOs in 2006. His experience included 5 hours of missing time and the filming of 2 UFOs leaving the scene of his abduction. These events began John's research, which has revealed connections to both the enslavement and the freeing of mankind. John wishes to enlighten others to the truth to help expand their consciousness. Together, Bonnie and John run awakenvideo.org, an anthology of videos with categories like DNA activation and ascension, reptilians, Masons and the New World Order, alternative energy, sacred geometry, HARP, and Project Bluebeam. Their current focus is the danger of television sigil magic. And so we're going to be discussing all of this television sigil magic today. And we have Bonnie and John. Hi, Bonnie and John. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, Ari. Hi, Serena. We're doing very good. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to be delving into something, and here's the purpose of this show, is just so you both know. We're not, a radio program that is like maybe any other radio program. We really delve into things that have to do with shattering the matrix, and that's the reason we named the show this way. It's time to free humanity. It's time to be sovereign, okay? And so that's what we're talking about. We aim today to go a little deeper, perhaps, than what you've done before in maybe other shows, other programs. We don't sugarcoat anything here. Okay, let's put it that way. So whatever needs to be disclosed will be disclosed, and as ugly and as uncomfortable as it may be to our listeners, you know what? It's time to grow up and let's get our fingernails dirty and get to work and change things around. That's basically where we're coming from.
Awesome.
All right. So talk to us about this situation with this hypnosis happening in the mass media. What is going on with this?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm getting a little bit of feedback in my headphones here from you guys. Basically, several years ago now, over 5 years ago, Bonnie and I noticed these mnemonic circles on TV at a relative's house. And because Bonnie and I had already begun to clean our lives up as far as, not watching any mass media at all, eating correctly, and doing several other things that we can get into later about protecting ourselves from the various dangers out there, we were able to notice these, what we're calling mnemonic circles, and immediately we saw that there was something not right about them. So that's how it began for us. Basically, the presentation that we put together to be able to illuminate this to people consists of, Bonnie will begin with just a brief history of the television set, because it's important for everybody to be on the same page to begin with, to understand that right from the beginning the television was designed as a weapon to hypnotize the masses. And I can start by saying that it's important that we get this information out to everybody, not just the people who call themselves awake, but the awake people have to take this information to everybody that they can who's watching TV and try to get them to stop doing this. And the importance of this is because, as you know, Ari and Serena, that the truly awake people are a handful compared to the masses.
That's right, yeah.
And unfortunately, the way this place works is basically the numbers create the creation. So in other words, the masses that are being hypnotized and being used essentially to create the Illuminati satanic reality, they are the most important ones because they're the ones creating this reality, and the few are kind of riding along the coattails of the many here that are creating this satanic reality. So we have to wake them up in order to get them to help us create the correct reality for everybody. So if you will, we'll let Bonnie start off by giving a brief history that's very interesting on the television set, and then we can go into the mnemonics and explain those, and then a little bit further, I have a real unique and I think a pretty important way to illustrate Sigil Magic to people that should be pretty mind-blowing for your audience. But we'll let Bonnie start.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, I like to start by saying that TV was designed to be a weapon. The very first TV that came out in 1925 had a flicker rate of 18 frames per second. That means that your mind is trying to take in 18 pictures in 1 second. Well, your conscious mind can't do that. It's just too overwhelming to see all of that information at once. So the subconscious mind takes over. Well, the subconscious mind, it does not have a way to rationalize or does this make sense or not? You know, should I listen to this or not? It just takes everything in and it stores it, and it just keeps all the information in there. So they can embed any information that they want to inside of your subconscious mind. So this very first television with a frame rate of 18 hertz or 18 frames per second changes your brainwave. Normally, during waking consciousness, you're in a beta state. But 15 to 30 seconds after sitting down and watching the TV, your mind goes into an alpha state, which is a light trance state. And the more you watch the TV, the deeper you can go. You can go into theta and into delta waves. Now this is a very deep state of hypnosis. So the very first TV was already putting people into a state of hypnosis. Now, they worked on it in the United States kind of quietly, but really the real development of the TV happened in Nazi Germany. In 1936, the Germans broadcast the Olympic Games on widescreen TVs in Germany, which was seen by 150,000 Germans. So I'm sure everybody knows a little bit about Nazi Germany and how they experimented with humans. They experimented with human behavior and how to control human behavior. Over in the United States, they were working on the TV, but it was much more quiet, and TV didn't really become popular until the early 1950s, and people started putting them into their homes. Well, we had Project Paperclip, where Nazi scientists came over to the United States after the war, and they got top positions in scientific laboratories, both above ground and underground, and in academic institutions. So they continued their research over here in the United States. The different states of consciousness for the brainwaves. Well, the beta state is a normal state of consciousness, everyday waking state, going to work, doing your daily things. An alpha state is when you're going into a light trance. This is where your mind becomes susceptible to suggestion. It's where your subconscious mind is starting to take over. Theta waves are going into a deep state of consciousness, deep subconscious state, where you're highly susceptible to programming. And the delta wave is basically you're asleep. Your mind is asleep, although you could still be awake with your eyes open. But if you're watching TV with your eyes open, your conscious mind can be asleep. So this is what happens, and it's why they are able to embed information into your subconscious mind, because it's completely open for programming.
So great. Thank you for that clarification.
So, Bonnie, that happens in the alpha state. Once you get into the alpha state, you're susceptible?
Yeah, it begins in the alpha state,
okay.
And that's just a light trance, but then you go deeper into theta and delta.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can also say that, the very first TV broadcast in the United States was 1927, and this broadcast went from Washington, D.C. to New York City, and it was all about a speech by Herbert Hoover. So right away they've got, government involved in this, in the television, the very first broadcast. And by the way, at the same time they did this television broadcast, they also did a wireless transmission from New Jersey to New York City on the same day, at the same time. So they had wireless technology even back in 1927.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so that really shows you right there, that little tidbit shows you that, the hidden technology end of it too, and I think there's more too about Nazi Germany, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when the Nazi war ended and all of those scientists were left standing around with nothing to do, the United States were the first to grab them up, and they were given basically endless diplomatic immunity and a basically untouchable kind of status, where they were brought in for their scientific know-how, because they didn't want the German mind to go to waste, because the American technology didn't have it. And they knew that the Germans did, so they brought them all in to work on different sectors of science in all fields in the United States. And one of the more popular ones is Wernher von Braun, who became head of NASA.
That's right.
And that whole thing. But yeah, they brought them in, and a lot of people say that a lot of those Nazis are still alive in various sectors of leadership all over this country, America.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ways to look at it. That's sort of what you just said right there is Operation Paperclip, and that's sort of how we've all learned to look at it. The bad Nazis were, brought over here by a small section of bad guys that were here in the good old United States. But really, when you look at it, you look at the involvement of the corporations like IBM making computers to count the concentration camp victims. And it goes on from there. Without getting too wrapped up in this tangent, it's becoming clearer that a lot of, including the United States, several countries were involved in that aspect of World War II, as far as the mind manipulation and utilizing concentration camp victims as human guinea pigs for mind control experimentation. And then after World War II, it was all basically, it's looking like it was all kind of pre-planned. And not really like the history books would show it. But there's we should go on with what you were saying there.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So in 1977, the Senate had a hearing on the CIA and MK Ultra, and it was disclosed that the CIA had been working on 144 projects having to do with the control of human behavior, and 7 of these projects were directly had to do with hypnosis. And now if you go on the internet, you can find patents through the U.S. Patent Office that have to do with controlling the human nervous system, and controlling human behavior in many different ways. If you go to our post on awakenvideo.org, it's called Global Epidemic Exposed Television Sigil Magic. You will find a number of links in there. One of those is for various U.S. patents that have to do with human behavior and mind control. Wow. So you can look that up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you go ahead and read that one that you have there, because it's really...
Sure, I have one that I could read.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, this is U.S. patent number 6506148. Nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields for monitors. Physiological effects have been observed in a human subject in response to stimulation of the skin with weak electromagnetic fields that are pulsed with certain frequencies near 1/2 Hertz or 2.4 Hertz, such as to excite a sensory resonance. Many computer monitors and TV tubes, when displaying pulsed images, emit pulsed electromagnetic fields of sufficient amplitudes to cause such excitation. It is therefore possible to manipulate the nervous system of a subject by pulsing images displayed on a nearby computer monitor or TV set. For the latter, the image pulsing may be embedded in the program material, or it may be overlaid by modulating a video stream. So they know what they're doing with the imagery on TV and the pulsing of images. Mm-hmm. That's part of the hypnosis.
Wow.
They also use harmonics and trauma-based mind control through the television and through movies.
Right. So basically what we've seen happen over the years with television, and it's not just television, it's all mass media, and it's also our society, aspects of our society too. Mm-hmm. But what we're seeing is a reflection of what, if you guys are familiar with the trauma-based mind control,
sure,
and maybe some of the people even that have come forward, such as Kathy O'Brien, Arizona Wilder, more recently Jay Parker, and what these people have disclosed to us is a really good recollection of what the satanic families do in order to control, in order to turn a human being into a mind control slave. Also, the work of Fritz Springmeier, we always bring his name up because your audience should definitely, people who want to get educated on this, they should definitely read all of Fritz Springmeier's work. And essentially what we're seeing is that what happens in the trauma-based mind control families is reflected on television and mass media, and in a slightly more subtle way, and by that I mean, the lack of breaking bones and using cattle prods and other various terrible things that the trauma-based mind control families do. Since they can't exactly do that to you, I call it a more subtle form of it, but it's still trauma-based mind control, and it's dissociation is what it is. It's from the time, and also Janice Barcelo.
Sure, yeah.
And her work basically uncovers the fact that in Western medicine, anyhow, in the Western world, a childbirth is essentially a satanic ritual. And Janice Barcelo goes in depth into how that is a satanic ritual and how people are just horrendously brought into this world to begin with. Mm-hmm. And basically we join up with her after the baby goes home and is home for a little bit and then gets stuck in front of the television set, and this is where the satanic ritual picks right up again.
Yeah, and then I think I would like to do another show, Ari, one day soon, where we can talk about how trauma-based mind control is being executed onto the entire population,
right.
And through all kinds of medias. And this includes the deliberate production of mass serial killers, the zombies, the drugs that they put out into the world for the drug addicts to sell and to take, and to put these drug lords out there. These various terrorists and all these wars that they keep going. All of these things are contrived trauma-based mind control devices, because it keeps the entire planet traumatized. and then they become disassociated, and this becomes exactly why there are not enough people enraged about what is taking place, because they have already disassociated.
Sure. And so you're saying, John, that they as a tiny little infant, they're already getting used to that television set, and it's already a mind control.
That's right. Let's think about it. When we were sat in front of the TV and watched cartoons show you lots and lots of violence. We know that.
Sure.
Yep.
They also equate violence to humor somehow.
Sure.
That's supposed to be okay. And basically what the child does, there's a difference between disassociate and dissociate. And what the child does is dissociate the violence and sex into another aspect of their mind, just as the trauma-based mind control victim of an Illuminati family dissociates the violence and the sex into another part of their mind. And what this does is it creates the mind control slave, basically, and we see that in our society by the time, especially the males, are 18 years old, they're ready to go, and I am former military myself, so I know this firsthand. You're ready to sign up with the military and let the government tell you where you're going to go and go kill innocent people somewhere.
Yeah.
And under the guise of war or whatever you want to call it. So it's really important to understand how strongly this affects our society. And I think we can go into the mnemonics now if you want to.
Definitely.
Can you define disassociate as opposed to dissociate, please, a little bit, just to clarify that?
I believe, I don't have the definition right in front of me, but dissociate means that's when you break off part of your subconscious to handle another part of it, or for your mind to handle the trauma that's being handled. That's dissociate. Disassociate, I think, is when you personally distance yourself from another person or organization.
It's more of a conscious decision.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that's what it is. Yeah, I just wanted to get that clarified a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. They're real close. The English language is all, and we get into that too, the English language is all word magic, and it's actually designed to be very confusing like that. So, the mnemonics.
Yes.
Basically, everybody, all your listeners, all the people who will listen to this interview need to go to awakenvideo.org and need to watch the video that Bonnie mentioned called Global Epidemic Exposed Television Sigil Magic, because you need to see this video to get a first-hand view of what it is we're talking about. But for the purpose of this interview, I can describe the mnemonics. The mnemonics are a graphic that's in mass media, television, and in the movies that is essentially arcs or semicircles that are in a pattern, in a circular pattern, and they move in opposing directions or in opposite directions from each other, but in a very particular interlocking pattern. So this is crucial in understanding. The mnemonics themselves serve as the hypnosis device. We know from Jay Parker's talk in Philadelphia at the Free Your Mind conference, he actually brought up the fact that his family and the other satanic families actually had a physical device that was a spinner, and they would use that spinner to put the children in a hypnotic trance before doing their rituals or whatever it is they were going to do to these poor kids. So we're seeing that exact same technology in these mnemonics, and the mnemonics work in a few different ways. They'll use these spinning circles to help induce the deeper trance, and sometimes the deeper trance is simply to get you prepared for the program itself. And all these words are very key. They tell you everything they're going to do. You turn on a channel so that the program could be channeled to you, your program.
Right.
So the words are important to understand, because it's divine law that they have to tell you what they're doing. It has to be right in front of you, and that way it is consent is causing all this. All of this, almost 100% of the bad stuff, from chemtrails to GMO, almost 100% of it is by consent, because people just are blind to the signs and the flat-out messages that they're doing this to you.
But that's important about consent, I think, can we just get into that for a little more minute, an extra minute? To give consent is when they have something that is right in front of, whether you understand what it is or not, even if you believe it to be something different, the fact that you have witnessed it, or you don't do anything against it, they consider that consent. In other words, you are giving your approval. And the other way that is very sick, I think, where they say that you are giving consent, is by the fact that you feel pain from whatever it is that they're doing, that you feel pain and you vibrate with this pain. You don't know how to get rid of it. You don't know exactly what is really causing it. But the fact that you are feeling this pain and it continues, they also consider that consent.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's very twisted. You're right. And it can be as simple as a human being knowing, having somebody say, you know, the television's bad for you.
Right.
But they turn the TV on anyhow. You have to physically turn that television on. That's your consent. You're giving consent by turning it on and sitting there in front of it.
Yeah.
So to go on, the other aspect of the mnemonics is, and just to reiterate, one aspect is they spin these spinners, these mnemonics, and put you in a trance, and then the program itself is what they want to induce to your subconscious. But another aspect that we're seeing is where the mnemonics themselves are spinning, and they're utilizing Sigil Magic within the mnemonic itself and placing thought forms into people. And God only knows really the extent of how powerful these are, but we're going to get into that a little bit, the power of Sigil Magic, and then maybe people can use their own imaginations to kind of develop this idea a little bit and understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. So that's a brief overview of what the mnemonics are, and of course, like I said, you have to go view the video to really get an understanding of what they are. And then once you see the video, anytime you do watch TV, and Bonnie and I really pray that everybody will stop watching TV. It's not safe at all. It's not okay to watch even 5 minutes of it. It's not okay to watch it. I used to do this when I watched TV way back. I used to say, well, I just watch the History Channel and the Discovery Channel, and so I watch smart TV, right? Well, those two channels in particular have a lot of these mnemonics on them. We've researched this. So it's very important to not watch any TV at all. There's nothing to gain by watching TV except mind control.
Yeah, and John, I just wanted to throw in something in there. When I was watching the video yesterday, I actually found myself going into that alpha wave state.
That's right.
I really did, and I was like fighting it, and I go, no, I'm realizing what's going on, but of course I was conscious about it. I'm also, an ex-psychology person, so I was very, very aware. But imagine the masses that are not aware. So
that's right, and that's why in the video we created the video in a very specific way, with very specific singing bowl harmonics in the background to try to offset that somewhat. And we begin the video by warning people and telling them to, if you're not a magician and you don't know how to exactly put spiritual protection over yourself, that's okay. You can say a prayer or whatever you need to do, but we give people that opportunity, and so this is a good time to say that you should definitely put spiritual protection on yourself before you watch this video, just as we instruct everyone to do in the video.
Can you describe how you do that, just quickly?
Well, Bonnie and I have our own unique way. We normally will sage, or it's called smudging. We use a variety of techniques and basically pray for ourselves, and then intentionally, it depends on how strong you need things to be. You can intentionally put a circle around yourself of protection if you need something very strong. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yes, you can do something called grounding, centering, and shielding. What you need to do is focus on your inner strength. And most people feel this center in their chest or their solar plexus. And this is kind of the seat, the center of where your spirit is residing in your body. So you find this center, your strength, your inner strength, and then you ground yourself to the earth to connect with the Mother Earth energy for protection and then you imagine a shield, like a protective bubble of white light around your body. I actually made a meditation that people are free to use. It's on my website, alienabductionhelp.com. If you go there to the first page, the home page, there are buttons that you can click on, and one of them says meditation. And that will take you to a grounding, centering, and shielding meditation.
That's fantastic.
Okay. So if you guys are ready, we could get into the Sigil Magic side of this, which is...
Yep.
Okay. The Sigil Magic is utilized, and it's the more powerful end of the TV mind control that we're talking about, but yet it's also the harder for everybody, really, unless you're already familiar with this stuff, to comprehend its power. It's pretty easy to look at those circles spinning, and for a bright person or someone who's, halfway with it to see, hey, that looks like something that could hypnotize people. It's real easy to see that. But it's harder to understand the power of sigils. So I have this unique way that I'm going to start right now and describe Sigil Magic, and then people, I hope, will raise their eyebrows and think of their reality in a new way. And so what I like to do is start off with this piece of information that was given just a few months ago by 4 individuals recently in an interview. They're Egyptologists, and then one of them works in South America with the Incan ruins. Their names are, because I like to give them credit where credit is due, Stephen Mailer, Chris Dunn, Gary Evans, and Brian Forrester. Brian Forrester is the fellow that works with the Inca ruins. And what these 4 individuals have concluded, which is extremely important, this may be, in a way, it's one of the most important things we've heard about. What these 4 have concluded is that the most ancient sites, megalithic sites on the planet, the oldest that we can possibly find, have a couple of unique features to them. Number 1, the most ancient sites on this planet are built the most precisely, which means to say that at a time as far back as we can possibly go and find these ruins, things were built better than anything after that. And that includes many of the pyramids, like the Egyptian pyramids and whatnot, were not built to the same expert level as these ancient ruins, the oldest ruins. Now, the other thing about these ruins is really important, is that they do not have hieroglyphs. Or actually, they've even found where they know that the hieroglyphs were added to them after the fact. And what this says is that if you want to believe it was human beings who built this, or whoever built it, but once upon a time on this planet, when these most ancient ruins were built, there was no language. And that's very, very crucial to understand, and I'm going to tell you why now, because language is sigil magic. Mm-hmm. Okay, most people don't ever think about this, but at a very young age, when we're children, we're put into an institution, which is called school, and everybody is taught to spell, right? Very magical words there. Everybody's taught to spell, and we're given these 26 sigils, which we're told is an alphabet, and these are letters in the alphabet. And these sigils all have a specific shape. In other words, L is L and O is O, right? And we know exactly what they look like. And they have a specific frequency. Each of the 26 letters has a certain sound that they make, or that you make when you see the sigil. This sigil magic is very, very, very powerful. And so people might think, well, come on, that's silly. That you're telling me that there's power in these letters and that this is sigil magic. But we can point to a couple of things that are very important to discover how powerful they are. One is the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto from Japan. And Dr. Emoto is the fellow who does the experiments with the water. And many people know that his experiment on putting basically intention into the water. In other words, they would have a couple beakers with pure water, purified water in each beaker, and probably in separate areas, these two beakers. And in one area, they would have people putting the intention of hatred into the water. They would be, I hate you, you're an ugly glass of water, and, you know, all these terrible things. And they would put this intention into this glass of water. And then in the other room, they would have people putting love and gratitude and peace and beautiful things of intention into that water. And sure enough, when you freeze the water and look at it under a microscope, the crystalline structure is completely different. The water, and actually the water that has the love energy or love intention in it is beautiful. It looks like frozen snowflakes, where the water with the negativity in it, the hatred in it, looks like mud. And this is repeatable. You can do this over and over and over again until you turn blue, and it stays the same, just like this, experiment after experiment. But here's the important part, and this is where the Sigil Magic comes in. You can take two beakers, which Dr. Emoto did. This is another aspect of his experiments, and simply write a word on it. You can write hate on one beaker, for instance, and love on another beaker. Pour the purified water into each of them and just simply let them sit there without anybody putting intention into them, and then come back, freeze the water, same result. This tells, and also repeatable. So this tells us that the sigils, in other words, the words written with the Sigil Magic, have an impact. They have power. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is a good way to describe Sigil Magic in an everyday aspect, because if you have a language, and as far as I know just about everybody does, you are practicing Sigil Magic every day. And so what Bonnie's going to talk on next is and I have one more thing. I said I did have two. There's Dr. Emoto, and there's one more. Dr. Ibrahim Karim of Egypt is, and his website is biogeometry.com, and Dr. Karim is utilizing basically what is Sigil Magic to change the energy in various places, and it's well documented, and it's very scientifically done, and so you can go to biogeometry.com and find out even more about how Sigil Magic is very, in other forms too, are very, very powerful. And now Bonnie's going to talk a little bit about a more ancient form of the Sigil Magic. It's the same concept. It's shapes that are being used now in this TV mnemonics, but it's certain shapes and forms that have meaning to your internal workings, into your own subconscious mind. And so, Bonnie, if you want to...
Okay. Yes, I want to say something about King Solomon. And King Solomon was king of the Israelites from 970 to 930 BCE. And he was a magician. He wrote a set of magical texts which described the magic that he performed that was given to him by God, supposedly. One of these books is called The Lesser Key of Solomon, Goetia, and it describes 72 different spirits or demons. He gives their description, their names, and their sigils. And he describes how to cast this magical circle and evoke these demons, and how to get these demons to do your bidding, basically. But these demons are supposed to regulate certain areas of the human brain, specifically the subconscious human brain. And I just like to read a quote from this book. It says, "The spirits of the Goetia are portions of the human brain. Their seals, therefore, represent methods of stimulating or regulating those particular spots through the eye." So it makes sense to me that somebody sitting in front of a TV watching the screen with their eyes and going into a state of hypnosis and having their subconscious mind open for programming, these sigils could be used in these mnemonic circles, and the energy of the sigils is embedded into the subconscious mind. And according to this book, it is regulating portions of the human brain. So that's how Sigil Magic works. Sigil is basically a shape or a symbol that represents some type of energy. Mm-hmm. And in the mnemonic circles, we find different sigils. We also find binary code. We find series of lines, series of dots, certain shapes that are repeated over and over. And also, we've noticed that often these mnemonic circles are accompanied by a countdown. And we're working on a new video right now which shows many different examples. Now, a lot of these are actually, you'll see before the evening news. On the intro to the news programs, they'll have a countdown. And they have these spinning circles, and the circles usually end up encircling the Earth.
Huh.
So that's something new that we've found with these circles, is they seem to be accompanied by a countdown usually.
Yeah. So the sigil magic, known as language, is very inhibitive to the human beings. It's basically burnt into your left brain while you're in this institution called school, and then it continues to inhibit your growth your entire life. Think about how many times, for instance, you've seen something amazing, or you had, let's say, an amazing dream, and you want to describe that to somebody else. Now, I know that we've all experienced that, where you just try, and your own language lets you down. You know, you are not able to describe vividly at all what's happened to you. It's because language limits you. And also, language is a barrier between your left brain and right brain, and that every time you go to access your right brain, your right hemisphere, to be creative, what do we hear? We hear a voice inside of our head, you know, that little voice that talks to you all the time, and it talks to you in your own language. So I don't know if that's being clear enough or not, but it's...
Yes, it is very clear. Actually, it happens to me every single day.
Okay, so you understand what I mean, that it's very inhibiting. And like I said, these four fellows, these Egyptologists who know this now, that it was once upon a time, a period of time on this earth long ago when we could do things better than any other time, and we didn't have language. So that really goes hand in hand in showing how at least an aspect of our dumbing down or our enslavement or our fall, the fall of mankind, if you want to call it that, has a lot to do with this use of language.
And can I just make a remark here, interject, because what I'm going to say is really my pet peeve here. It bothers the heck out of me because I try to bring this information across to so many people, and a lot of people fight me with this. I guess they're not ready for it. But it's in reference to channeling messages, you know, and I don't know if you guys are into it or not, but, you know, my personal knowing, and not only myself, I've discovered there are many people that are expressing this now, is that when I've communicated with a being that is of the highest truth, of the highest light, that is actually in service to the prime creator, these beings do not communicate via language. Okay, they communicate via packets of information. Okay, light packets of they're actually pictograms, or they're actually gestalts of information that are downloaded, and then they come forth and become, you know, eventually they are expressed through language, because that's what we know here. But that's not how they come in. And so what I'm trying to express to a lot of listeners and a lot of people that I'm trying to educate with this is that when they're listening to a channeled message, that it's many times this is you know, an infiltrator, someone who's actually hijacked that person to infiltrate information. And again, what is the clue? The clue is that they're using language, and just the mere fact that you're expressing that, it actually, you know, it just, I can rest my case pretty much. Yeah.
That's right, and remember, it's powerful magic too. What you say does have an effect, and there's clues to all of that too. Because once again, all of the information has to be here. That's divine law. It's up to the individual to look for the secrets of life, basically, on their own. But like, for instance, a curse word, they call it cursing for a reason. You know, if you say the F word to somebody, you are causing a curse, and it's very powerful, and it's part of the the fall of mankind is the misuse of the sigil magic. Also, like cursing and just using foul language. And if you walk around doing that all day, you're going to feel pretty lousy and make people around you feel pretty lousy too. So it's a very powerful thing. But basically, essentially what's happening is people who are ascending or waking up, they call it, are going from a state of matter towards a state of consciousness. And as you do that, you begin to see, as I said, all of the information is already here and available, but you begin to see that data in a different way. It's like these mnemonics. The mnemonics are here. They've been here for a long time now on television. This has been going on for definitely at least a decade, I would say, wouldn't you, Bonnie? I mean,
I think so. Well, we didn't notice it till really
about five years ago. But it's been quite a while this has been going on. But so what I'm saying is that the information is all here, but the reason why Bonnie and I are here, being as the two people bringing this information forward and just pointing at it, it's already there. We're just pointing at it and explaining it to people. The reason why we see it differently is just because we're going from a state of matter to a state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. So, that makes a lot of sense. Can we talk a little bit more about the King Solomon and the kind of magic that he was using? And you were saying something about 72 different, what were they, codes or names? Demons.
Well, they're demons.
Demons, okay. Are you familiar with the 72 names of God?
I've heard of that. I think you interviewed a fellow named Robert.
Robert Stanley?
Yeah, I think he might have mentioned that. Is that right?
He may have. I mean, it was a while back. I mean, I can't even remember yesterday. So
interesting that there's these 72 names of God, mm-hmm. And then when you look, and here's the other thing now too that Bonnie didn't get a chance to say, but this information, she's going to share some more with you here.
Good.
But this information from this Lesser Key of Solomon is required reading for the Illuminati Satanic family. So that should tell you right there that it is. It's not, through movies like Harry Potter and a slew of other mind programs, the masses have been dumbed down to think that magic is not real, or they equate magic with going on rides at Disney World or something crazy like that.
Interesting.
But actually magic is real. It's very, very powerful. Bonnie and I are both magicians ourselves, but on the light side, on the good side. And so we know how powerful it is, but this is a good way to show the masses, hey, if this is all just some big joke, why is it that these people who are not a joke, these Illuminati Satanists that we know are very real, why is this required reading?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Unless it's real. Yeah. So I'll let Bonnie
another point to asking if they think that this is all nonsense is if they're putting in these sigils and symbols into movie frames that are going by so fast that you can't see them anyway, then what's the point of putting them in there if you can't see them? So they obviously have a nefarious purpose for putting them in there because they know what they're doing to your subconscious and you don't.
Right.
Right. Well, there's a great book by Fritz Springmeier, and it is called The Illuminati Formula for Creating a Total Undetectable Mind-Controlled Slave. And he has studied these Illuminati families, the dark magicians, and the different types of satanic rituals that they conduct. And I'd like to read a quote from this book. Within the occult world, the entire study of demonology is wrapped around the geometric shapes that serve as focal points for demons, and the portals by which demons can enter the human body. A demon doesn't have to be materialized or conjured up to enter into a body. Geometric shapes, which are believed to attract demons, are placed into the internal subconscious worlds of slaves. So, from this Lesser Key of Solomon, Goetia, which is required reading for the Illuminati family members, this is part of the magic that they use for their rituals. Now, the idea is that the person involved with this magic, or the TV viewer, has to be in a subconscious state of mind, because being in a conscious state of mind, they would not go for this. The magic would not work. So they have to be in a subconscious state of mind. The subconscious controls the five senses. Have you ever noticed how if you watch a TV show or a movie and the story is sad, that you might cry, you might feel sad,
Sure.
or you might get angry at something, and you know,
Yes.
you're really, yeah, you're having, yeah, you have an emotional reaction, but at the same time, you know, your conscious mind knows, well, this is just a movie, it's not even real, you know, why would I be having such an emotional reaction? It's because your subconscious mind is controlling all of your senses. This is how they can embed the information and then actually have the TV viewer manifest this information.
That's
Oh,
right.
that is so good. That is so good. Yeah.
If you can picture it, I know you've probably seen this before. If you see an aerial photo of any suburbia hell here on Earth, and compare it with one of those circuit boards, they look awfully similar, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
The houses all lined up in a row, little square blocks with the little roads connecting them and everything. Well, if you can picture it this way, essentially what is happening on Earth is human beings are reality creators. That's what our third eye is for. And incidentally, human beings are way, way, way more powerful than anybody has been dumbed down to think, okay? There's a reason why we're still here, okay? They've been attacking us from the beginning, but we're still here and flourishing, multiplying, okay? But essentially, if you can look at it like this Archonian grid is manufactured with all of these reality makers sitting in the grid, sitting inside their little box, okay, that they call a home, plugging themselves in by consent, because that's what they were taught to do, into this machine called the television that tells them what to manufacture, that tells them what reality needs to be like. And not we, but they, all of them are consensually doing this. They're all, and this is why it looks like it does. This is why the grid is there. It's all connected. It's all interconnected. If human beings were whole, full human beings like we used to be, we wouldn't even be building square boxes to live in,
right.
Nor would we have any interest whatsoever in living 10 feet from our neighbor.
Right.
And we would be spread out across the land, and everybody would be unique and beautiful, and we would all be balanced between the two hemispheres of the brain, and we would all be living a much more creative and beautiful life in peace and harmony, which is the true state of the human soul. It has to go through this mind control and trauma to get human beings to be violent and negative the way that we see so profusely now.
Yeah, so essentially these Illuminati dark magicians are having the masses manifest the reality that they want, that the Illuminati wants.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why we're seeing it go dark, but we do see, things changing very fast. And one thing that people are so afraid of, especially people just waking up to all this, and they're like, oh my God, the whole system's going to crash, and what'll happen, and we'll be in anarchy and all that. Let me tell you that the best thing that could happen to this planet right now is for everything to crash.
Yeah.
If every cell phone and every TV set on this planet stopped working, all of it would change like in a flash.
Yep.
So
I totally agree. It's time for what is the word? A reboot or?
Yeah, Yeah, and so, we see that this stuff has all been used against people, and that language has been used against us. And in some aspects, people could even think of the body that way, too. If Bonnie and I were just talking about this. If you think about it, like, for instance, demonic possession. Well, what is that? We consider demonic possession a spirit, a negative spirit in this case, entering the human body and taking control of it, right?
Right.
So that's demonic possession, but what do you consider yourself? You know that you're not your body, right? everybody knows that they have a soul, what they call a soul or a spirit inside of them that is accessing this body.
Right.
So that leaves, there's a big doorway I just opened up there to think about. If we are not our body and we're just accessing this body, that's no different than the evil spirit entering the body and accessing the body. So we know we're not the body. So there's a lot of big questions we can ask about, who are we really, and what is this body that we're in, and why? Why is it?
Yep. Good point.
Have you either of you heard of Sergei Monast?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
Well, he was a gentleman who researched Project Bluebeam, and he gave the world information about Project Bluebeam and was pretty quickly killed for it. But we have his information on our website. I believe it's linked on that post.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
Okay, so one of the things he said, now, Serena, you mentioned Werner von Braun, and he talked about all the different ways that the Illuminati were going to control what was happening in our reality, and they had certain cards that they were playing. Can you talk about that, John? Do you know all the different...
Oh, yeah. Well, all the different things we've been through so far. Werner von Braun even said that there would be terrorism, would be fake terrorism, and that's the era that we live in now. And then it would go from that to a false alien invasion. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Actually, it's terrorism, then the comets. The comets.
Yeah.
And then finally... the last card would be a false alien invasion. It would be holographic, but it would feel real, he said. And he gave Carol Rosen the job of making it public after he was gone, did he not?
That's right. She's been crusading for that. And also remember that these satanic beings mimic the Creator's creation. So what I think is going to happen is that there is a splitting off about to occur. We're actually at the tipping point right now, and I believe it'll happen before 2016 personally. Just as the Mayans said, the window would be open. The time of no time is now. That the window would be open as of December 21st, 2012 until sometime in 2016. And I concur with that completely, that we're in that window period, that time of no time. But again, the satanic families mimic the Creator's creation. So if within the Creator's creation, if we have a natural time of splitting off, or as the Christians call it, the rapture, if this is a natural event that's going to happen, then of course one of the aspects is going to be the satanic mimicry of that in their own way. So that's what we feel is also part of this. So the fear part of it is mimicry. The beautiful ascension part of it is the Creator part.
Well, I wanted to say that Sergei Monast said, here's the quote, "The third orientation in the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at that time will allow supernatural forces to travel through optical fibers, coaxial cables, electrical and phone lines." So coaxial cables are television cables. He's saying that spirits will actually be able to travel through these and enter people's homes.
Right.
And even enter people.
Right.
Wow.
Can you break that down just a little bit more? I think that's a little difficult for the mind to grasp. Could you break it down a little bit?
Sure. Okay, he's talking about the fourth step here, and I'm not sure what Werner von Braun said the fourth step was. I think it might have been where we're getting into the fake alien invasion. But Sergei Monast said that during this time when the Illuminati would be putting on this holographic show of a false alien invasion, that at that time supernatural forces would be able to travel through optical fibers, coaxial cables, TV cables, electrical lines, and phone lines.
Right.
Wow.
And there is a thing called ITC, which is Instrumental Transcommunication. And this started when the TV first came out, and people were experimenting with televisions and radios. And they do this they do it over in Europe in laboratories. They actually, according to these scientists, they are having direct communication with the astral plane through their television sets.
Oh, wow.
And it's another one of those things that's played down in mainstream and made to seem ridiculous or whatever, like it's not powerful. But if you look into, there's a couple experiments like the, what is the name of that place in England where they did the tests? Starts with an S. We'll try to think of that in a moment here, but we're just watching some information on that skull. The skull test. Look that up. I think it's SCOLE. The skull experiment is definitely something everybody should look into, because, like nobody else before, I don't believe, like nobody else before, they really put some really great information together, really great proofs of spiritual contact, and so that's a good place to go. And just to backtrack just for a second here, the ultimate goal of the Illuminati satanic families is to put demons into their own flesh and blood, into their own children, into their own occult members, and to possess them by demons, to control them, so that these demons are actually the ones walking around. And we see this play out in our society. Our society is set up completely upside down and backwards, where the most cruel, the most satanic individuals have the most apparent, and it's only apparent, it's an illusion, but they have the most apparent power. In other words, some of the most evil people I can think of would be anybody from the Bush family, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Obama, all of these people, and they come from this, what's called a breakaway society, this Luciferian/satanic society. These evil monsters come from somewhere. It's not just like, they just appear and there's just a handful of psychopaths on the planet and they all end up being presidents and vice presidents. It doesn't work like that. There's a whole breakaway society that I think makes up probably about 20%, 30% of our global population. And it's from that society that give birth to these most evil individuals, and they go on to become the ones in power in politics, which is all an illusion, because the most deceived people on this planet are not the masses that we're talking about that are watching TV and going through all this trauma. It seems like, wow, that's pretty deceptive, but they're not the most deceived ones. The most deceived people on this planet are the Illuminati Satanists, who are practicing this, quite frankly, much weaker form of magic known as, all this Sigil Magic and conjuring demons and all this. This is for low life, very low. I can't even really bring myself to call them magicians. I really can't, because they're practicing something that is child play. Yeah. Really, and it's evil and it's dark, so it shouldn't even be happening. But I'm just trying to illustrate that it's very backwards, and the people. This is the reason for the upside down pentagram in Satanism. This is putting the pentagram represents spirit at the top, and then the four elements at the four lower points. They invert the pentagram to put spirit at the bottom and the elements of the physical world above that.
Right.
So these demonically possessed Illuminati Satanists who are in apparent power, they are really the most deceived, because they believe in this physical world over the spiritual. So they're going to ride this ride out all the way to the hell on earth scenario, and that's what they're bound for. That is their path. The dark path takes you to the hell on earth scenario.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposite is true for the enlightened people, people who basically all you have to do is be able to keep love and care in your heart and manifest an abundance of that in your heart, and then you are practicing, even if you don't know that that's what you're doing, you are practicing true, pure magic when you do that.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. So, did you want to go into perhaps some of the remedies? I mean, what can we do besides, when we sit in front of a television? Hopefully the remedy would be let's just get rid of the television altogether. Is there any danger also when we sit in front of a computer? Are we receiving, well, we may not maybe see the mnemonics perhaps, but just the radio, the actual frequencies. Do you think there's a danger with that, getting some kind of demonic possession via the actual screen?
The short answer is yes. Bonnie, in particular, the patent that she just read is talking about not even the imagery on the monitor, but the effects of the monitor itself on the human mind. So,
yeah, the electromagnetic radiation that comes off the computer is very bad for your nervous system.
And there are things you can do, and we can get into that too. Bonnie and I have taken immense precautions against a lot of this stuff. For one thing, several years ago we built our own Faraday cage, and we're going to be starting I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kickstarter or not. Kickstarter is a website where people put their ideas in there and are funded. Philanthropists, I guess other people are looking for things to do with their money. Go there and they fund these projects. So we're going to be starting a Kickstarter on how we built our Faraday cage, and we're going to build a brand new one in another room in our house.
Nice.
And film that and show people how to do this. But
how large did you build your first one?
Well, it fits around our bed. It's built around our bed in our bedroom, and we're going to be doing one for a king-size bed next. And the reason why you do it around your bed is because if you just had a cage in your house, you'd only be able to really get in there here and there every once in a while and spend a few hours a day, maybe, if you have time to do it. But if you do it around your bed, you're spending 1/3 of your life there. If you're sleeping 8 hours a day, that's 1/3 of your life where you are. And our cage is free of RF smog, free of cell phone broadcasts, and also FM, AM broadcasts. But it does not protect you from the scalar frequencies of HAARP, just to be clear about that. There's other things that have to happen for that. And there are other technologies. People are developing anti-scalar technologies in the form of medallions that you can get to wear around your neck. Those would be, when we don't currently have that, but that would be smart to have for computer work.
Have you tried Orgon? What do you know about Orgon?
Actually, we have a couple of small chunks of Orgonite, and, well, I don't know a whole lot, but I think that Orgon creates etheric energy, which is supposed to keep away negativity, and it helps your vibrational frequency to be clear, and I believe that it may possibly help keep away demons, evil spirits. So we're planning on building an Orgon cannon, actually, which is a large one that you would actually build like in a 5-gallon bucket with tall tubes of copper pipe. And it's also said that these large ones, these Orgon cannons as they're called, they produce enough etheric energy, they can disperse chemtrails.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've seen them do that. I helped somebody build one, and she was having chemtrails. Her daughter was my friend, and we went to her mom's house, and her mom had them there, and her daughter was always saying, we got to get rid of them, so she decided to build an Orgon, I forget what it's called. It's an Orgon blaster, actually.
Yeah, chemtrail blaster, yeah.
With the copper pipes and everything. So we did that. I actually helped her build that, the copper pipes, the crystals and everything. And then I contacted her several days later and asked her if she's seen those lines in the sky, as she called them. And she said, nope, I haven't seen them since. And then 2 weeks later I asked her, and she forgot about them. She said she doesn't see them anymore.
Wow.
So I know at least one person who was paying attention to them and said after building the blaster that she didn't see Orgon chemtrails over her area anymore. It was amazing.
That is amazing. One of the most awesome proofs I have seen, because, obviously we're taught to not believe in this type of thing, etheric energy and everything, Right. So the doubt is always there with people, or outright think that it's just craziness. But basically, I saw a video not too long ago of a person who had one of those chemtrail blasters in their backyard, and a military helicopter, a black helicopter, came to their house, and this guy filmed this black helicopter with somebody poised outside the sliding door of the helicopter with some big machine.
Oh my gosh.
That this guy was pointing at this guy's, I don't know if they're trying to interfere with this chemtrail blaster or whatever, but for me, there's no greater proof than that.
Oh, yeah.
The government's going to fly a black helicopter in circles around your property because you have one of those things.
Yeah.
That's
If you do it right, it does emit light. I've been making orgone pieces for years now, and I have them everywhere. But after we finished making hers, we put it in a planter pot that was a vine, and we covered it with the vine at the base and then twirled the vine all around the copper pipes so you couldn't really see it at all. So it was disguised so you'd never see it. But you want to disguise them. But I hear too many positive stories from people to ignore it, and so I decided to just make them and put them around the house. And when I had made them and I had given away pieces, because I made some as pendants and I had given them away to people, I said, the one thing I want back is feedback. I just want feedback from you. If you experience anything positive, please let me know. Well, I received so much positive feedback. It was just unbelievable. And of course there will be nice things happening in the normal way of life. Nice things do happen. But at this level, it was undeniably because of the orgone pieces. But they are like crystals, and they do have to be cleansed. They do have to be cleansed and then recharged and then put back out.
Okay.
Bonnie or John, either one, talk to me about harmonics. How does that function in reference to everything that you have mentioned up to now?
So glad you brought that up. Bonnie has a whole bunch of harmonics information, so she's got a bunch for you there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, harmonics is, your body vibrates on its own personal frequency, and this is your personal resonance. This is the frequency you would vibrate at if you were perfectly healthy, and all of your organs have their own little frequencies, and your body would be harmonically vibrating if everything was in order and you were healthy. And we have a lot of things, preventing this from happening, like the cell phone towers and the Glen towers and the HARP frequencies. But part of what they do on the TV is they use harmonics. Harmonics are basically, it's a frequency, it's a number of frequencies vibrating together. It's different levels of the same frequency vibrating in harmony. Well, part of the mind control on TV is not only the hypnosis and the imagery that they show you, but also the sounds. So when you watch the video, television Sigil Magic, you see these mnemonic circles, and the sounds that go with them are just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're grating, they're jarring.
Yep.
And when I look at them, I turn the sound off because I don't want that going into my brain. There's such a thing called entrainment.
Yep.
And these stronger frequencies that are blasted at you can actually overcome you. They can overcome your frequency, especially if you are not healthy and you are not vibrating at your normal optimum, health, your personal vibrational frequency. These louder frequencies can actually make you vibrate the way they're vibrating. So your whole body could be vibrating to these jarring sounds. Mm-hmm. Your body becomes entrained like this. So it isn't just the imagery, it's the sounds too.
Right.
Right, so basically what she's talking about is the harmonics are played in conjunction with the mnemonic circles. The harmonics go hand in hand, so anytime you're watching a movie or whatever, any type of video with the graphics, and you see those spinning circles, those mnemonics, it's always in conjunction with our harmonic. They work hand in hand to induce the type of, or inflict the type of situation on the viewer.
Yeah, the harmonics can embed information into your subconscious.
Now, I'm sorry, I must have missed it. I'm sorry, Bonnie. What kind of sound did you say that they made? How did you hear them?
Well, on the TV, when you see these spinning circles, they also are accompanied by these terrible noises.
Oh, like the ones that are in your video?
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, they were horrible. I had to turn that off. I always turn it off. Well, first of all, I don't watch TV. As a rule, I just don't watch TV for many, many years now. I do.
That's right.
But when I do see those things, like at the beginning of newscasts and history shows and all of these, I literally close my eyes and turn my face away. I have the remote in my hand and I'll mute it. Right? Because I don't want to see them and I can't watch them. And I couldn't watch the ones that you had on the video either for the same reason. I just couldn't. I refused to watch them. The sounds are very, very horrid. Yes, they are.
And it's all, they play on all the different senses. So the harmonics obviously have to be a part of that. And, we could break off into some other stuff too. There's another thing that Bonnie and I noticed or did you have more harmonics?
No, I just wanted to say, I'm not sure if we covered it very well, but the trauma-based mind control on TV comes in the form of the actual show that you're watching, the program. Or in the movies, they'll show you a very traumatic scene, something that, most people turn their eyes away from, cover their eyes from, and I don't want to see that. And this is something the Illuminati satanic families do to their children, unfortunately, but they show them something very traumatic and painful. They get the brain to do this thing it naturally does when it has a lot of pain or trauma. It dissociates. So this is allowing them to kind of program another part of your mind. They actually create alters or multiple personality disorder in people by doing this. But the TV show or the movie, they show you something very traumatic, and then they show you something very soothing.
Right.
Like, oh, it's okay now. There's a cute little puppy. I can feel okay now. And then, bam, they hit you. Then somebody gets killed or something, and it's horrible again. Right? And they keep doing this over and over. That's trauma-based mind control.
Yes.
And that's why, like I said, by the time this human being who's entered the world through a satanic ritual, as we've seen by Janice Barcelo's information, and then go through this satanic reality of dissociation through trauma and being oversexed and over-violenced through the TV set, by the time they're 18 years old and coming out of that institution called school, just like an insane asylum is an institution, when they come out of there, this is why they're ready to go off and murder for their government. And government literally means mind control, governmental, Right. So, and I would like to say, too, just a couple of real quick things here, that we want to make it real clear to everybody, so the best way to do it is just to say it right out. And that's that this TV, mnemonic, trauma-based mind control through Sigil Magic that Bonnie and I are showing everybody is the number one poison. It's the number one. It's the key to all of this. If by some miracle we could shut all the TVs off right now, right this minute, all of this insanity would stop. The chemtrails, the GMO, everything, the school systems, the whole 9 yards, we would see or very quickly begin to become conscious again and see what's really happening. So we want to make that very clear that it's not just a matter of maybe I should stop watching television. It's a matter of realizing what we're saying and realizing that the TV is a weapon. It's not an entertainment device. It's not okay to watch it a little bit. It's not okay to just watch PBS, your public stations or whatever. It's not okay to use it at all. It's a weapon. Just turning the thing, you can turn one of these things on and have your back to it and just in a dark room and just watch the flicker rate against the wall behind you and see that it's a nefarious technology. So we want to make that really super clear. And as a sideline also, people are getting, all kinds of people are becoming video producers now on YouTube and whatnot and making their own websites. And so they have packaged video intros available for people when you make your video. I would suggest that everybody that hears this and spread the word on this really look at those intros, because those intros are being pre-assembled to be mnemonic mind control devices that are then given out in these software packages for people to utilize them in their own videos. So certainly not on purpose, but unbeknownst to the person making their video, they're inserting these intros that are already preset with this mind control technology.
Interesting. John, what would you say that are some of the messages that are in these sigils, whether it's the television or you're sitting in a screen and watching a movie? What would you think they are? Are they mostly for the consumer to buy products, or is it mostly a thing to keep us sedated, to keep us from in a state of apathy? I mean, what would you? I mean, it's probably all of the above, but I mean, I just want to get your input on that.
Sure. I think you've seen the movie, now I just slipped my mind. They Live.
Yes.
Okay, They Live is awesome. I know it's an old school movie, but it lays it all out there. And when you see these messages, when the guy gets the sunglasses and he sees the billboards and the newspapers and everything for what they really are, and he sees that they say obey, reproduce, consume, all of these standard things that they want from us, it's really easy to take a guess at what the sigils are for, because we see it in everyday, you actually hit quite a bit of them there. Consume, have sex, all these base things, to keep you in a lower state of consciousness. They want to keep you submerged in the matter of this world instead of raising yourself up into a more energetic vibration of love and harmony.
Right.
Because truth and real reality has nothing to do with what this place is. It has nothing to do with buying junk and having the shiny red sports car or the biggest house or all that crap. This is all an illusion, and it is very much so an illusion. This entire reality is illusionary. And I would like to just real quickly, if I can, just tell you my idea on that. And that's, I've always believed, and I've come here with a knowing, just like Bonnie, since we were both children, we've been very strange people.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just don't.
Yeah. It's like when I was 4 years old, I was drawing pictures of the inside of flying discs.
Oh my God! Oh my God, John, we got to hook up.
Yeah, and these drawings, incidentally, where I would draw, knowing that these were the motors, if you will, the propulsion. I would draw these three bulbous shapes inside the flying disc, and then we learned, several decades later from Bob Lazar, who worked at Area 51, sure enough, he says there's three anti-gravity propulsion devices inside these discs, and explains how they work. And
how do you like that? I was drawing the same thing at 4.
Right. So my understanding of how this place works is this: that this is the Earth is a multitude, an infinite amount of frequencies exist all in the same place. We see this when we see into the spirit world. When you see a ghost, let's just call it a ghost. When you see a ghost or a spirit, that's simply an interference in the frequencies. When you can see into another level of the frequencies, or another world, if you will. And so what I believe is that our world exists in an infinite amount of frequencies from the left and the right. In other words, all the way from the hell on earth scenario of Earth, all the way to the heaven on earth scenario of Earth, with an infinite amount of radio stations or frequencies in between, all containing worlds, actual worlds with people on them.
Yep.
And in the lowest form of this world, it is a reptilian world. It is inhabited by reptilian beings, and I really believe that this is it's an we have the opportunity to be those reptilians in that hell on earth world, which is why, you point the finger at the reptilians and say reptilian that, reptilian this, but every person pointing the finger has a reptilian portion of their brain in the center of their brain, right? Mm-hmm. We all have that R complex. And what I believe is that if you give yourself to darkness through your free will, and God doesn't just, what people call God, I don't like to use that term really, but the one gives you many possibilities through reincarnation to get it right. We have many opportunities to do this right. People who intentionally, through their own free will, give themselves to the darkness over and over again, they end up pushing themselves into that lower frequency of the hell on earth frequency. And I really believe that at that point you are in the form of a reptilian. And there's one bit of information that just happened, and I haven't had the time to because it's going to take some real digging to find this again. But in two places, we heard an interview not too long ago where someone spoke on this, and then David Icke mentions it in his most recent conference that he gave to everybody, which was in England very recently. Remember Who You Are, David Icke.
Right.
And so the story goes that there is this woman, and it's very interesting. There's a little sideline to this too, but there's this woman who was at home in the process of having a stroke. And this may be ringing bells for you. I hope that one of you have heard this already. But in the process of doing that, she grabbed the telephone to try to call for help, and she couldn't remember how to even use the telephone because her brain was going out of sync. It was going into a different frequency. And when she looked down at her hands were like reptilian claws.
Oh, dear God.
She wasn't seeing her own hands anymore. And this, I believe, is just a little window into what I'm talking about, that we contain within us the full potential of all the way to the darkness or the reptilian side of us, that reptilian brain, to actually be reptilians, all the way up to the opposite side of that, to be ascended, maybe you want to call them ascended masters or whatever, but just ascended beings. And so I think this is a little window into that. And interestingly enough, I was not able last night, because this is a last-minute tidbit that I threw in here, I wasn't able to locate that except for that David Icke does talk about it in his 6-hour presentation. Mm-hmm. I just didn't, and he says in his talk, he says, and she looked down at her hands, and her hands were not hands anymore. So he doesn't actually say the whole story, but if you catch, I believe it was on Red Ice, and I'll try to get that information locked down here shortly.
Cool.
But the interesting tidbit is we're seeing a lot of manipulation on the internet. Yep. Sure enough, if you type in like I did, woman having stroke sees claw hands, you'll pull up a story that I am positive is propaganda of some woman named Mrs. Crab, okay, and that her hands, when she was having the stroke, balled up and became claw-like. And this is a total disinformation story that's out there. I'm mentioning it because I find it so fascinating that when a tidbit of information is put out there that could leak a bigger picture, like what I've just exposed to you by kind of saying what I think about the rheostat version of this earth, when something like that happens, they attack it. They are right on there, and then they put these disinformation stories out there. And this is far from the first time we've seen something like this. But anyhow, interesting. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, Serena, the story is real.
Yes, that's real.
So, all right, wait, I'm confused. So this woman who has a heart attack and looked down at her hands and saw reptilian claws, this really happened?
That really happened, and it spoke about in a couple of places. Like I said, the 2 interviews that we heard. I will lock that down for you and give that to you when I find out the true story. But if you just search for it, you're more
I tried doing that as you were talking about it, and I couldn't come up with it. So what is the disinformation part?
The disinformation is, if you look at it, you're more than likely going to see a story about someone allegedly named Mrs. Crab who had a stroke, and one of the symptoms of her stroke was her hands balled up and became claw-like. But I just find it hilarious because it's just disinformation to cover up the real story of this woman seeing reptilian claws for hands.
Yep.
because that is a window into the truth, and whenever that happens on the internet, boy, they are right on top of it.
Oh, yeah. So, real quick question. We're coming back to something else that we were talking about a little bit, with respect to all these potential demons and entities and whatnot coming in through, even the wires to our phone. You guys, I heard, have a landline. Are you concerned about that?
We have. I might have missed part of that question.
Okay. You guys have a landline as a telephone, correct?
Yes.
Are you concerned about possible these entities and evil demons or whatever that we were speaking of before, coming in through the television and different waves, and coming in through actually cable and whatever, coming in through your landline?
Yes, absolutely. We're aware of the potential of the problem, and Bonnie and I live and we can get more into this, but we live for the last over 5 years now, we have cut out all the poisons in our food, sleeping in the Faraday cage to cut out as much of the RF poison as possible, and leading a spiritual life. We don't curse as much as possible. So we watch any really good light magician will not speak a whole lot. You use the frequencies very carefully once you understand how important they are. And there's a multitude of things we've done. One of the things we do is smudge every morning and pray. And so we do utilize spiritual protection for all of these things, short of, becoming completely Amish and
right.
Getting rid of our computers and our phones and all of that. If we're going to stay in contact with others and try to wake people up, we really need a couple of these tools. But for instance, like our landline, we got rid of our wireless phones because some of those are even more dangerous than the cell phone radiation. And this really, if you're using cell phones, this is hurting you. It is dumbing your brain down. It's basically slow kill for retardation by irradiating your brain with a cell phone or a cordless phone. So we've gone to and it's a bit of a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna, you have to be willing to, have things not quite as convenient sometimes. So that's one of the little conveniences that we're definitely willing to give up so that we don't give ourselves brain tumors, for instance. But yes, we're aware, to answer your question, we're aware of the problems. We're not afraid of anything at all. But we are aware and do our best to protect ourselves from anything like that.
Fantastic. And is there
how do you protect yourself when you're on the computer? Do you have some tricks for that? Because I need some better ones than I have now.
Yeah, and by the way, just as an aside, I'm sure the audience and all of you are listening to rumbling. Where I'm at, it's thundering, so it's not any kind of strange entity coming through.
One of those new man-made severe storms.
Exactly. It's one of those wonderfully canned ones, yeah.
Also, the other sounds that you may hear is that when I move my mic to get it closer to me, it does have a hissing sound from the other end for the people that hear it. So it's not going to be entities either. Yeah. But I mute myself as much as possible. But when I am not muted, I do move around a little bit, and you will hear little things that sound funny, and that's all it is. Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
That's too funny, Ari.
I have to say that because some listener out there is going to make a strange comment on YouTube saying, "Did you hear those strange noises that were coming? They were it's like, no, I'm nipping it now."
I know exactly what those noises were because when I moved my microphone, that's what it sounds like on the other end, and I heard it and I knew exactly what it sounded
cool.
like.
Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's fine. No, it is good. And, for those people who are like that, that's a beautiful thing. All you need to do is try to use some discernment, though, so you know you're not fooling yourself. But to be wide awake and aware, and even listening to things like that, hey, we heard this noise, or did you see that light, or stuff like that. Being inquisitive is beautiful, and it's a great way to be. Part of the mind control is the keep your head in the sand mentality and be an Archon in that, be, you know, get in step with the rest of them, and don't look up.
Don't question.
You know,
don't question.
That's right.
Well, when I use the computer, I kind of sit back from it because I know that it emits a frequency right out of the front. We have actually a meter that we can read the frequency coming off.
Wow.
And I know where the field is of the computer. So I actually sit back as far as I can, so it's not directly affecting my aura or my frequency. And I limit my time on the computer. I limit it to as little time as possible. Probably about an hour for me is good, and then I get up and do something else. I'm a very earthy person, and I'd rather be outside in my garden. You know, we grow our own food. I'm a vegetarian, and I love to be out in the garden. We plant all heirloom seeds. We avoid all the GMO, genetically modified food. And that's, you know, we've changed our life since we've been together. The past 5 years, we've done everything we can to try to be whole people.
And we can say something on that real quick on the GMO. We didn't realize either how serious of a problem that was until we researched it in depth. And it's now scientifically known. See, for years, Monsanto, or Monsatan, they would say, well, you know, it doesn't matter what alien foreign gene we're using because you eat the corn, let's say the corn, and it goes into your stomach, and your stomach acids kill the alien stuff anyhow, so who cares? Well, they now know, and have known for, I guess it's been over a year now that they've known this, that what's called RNA is the chemical compound that tells your DNA what to do. And they now know for a fact that the RNA from the foreign gene that they use to genetically modify the food survives digestion. They know that. And so this foreign RNA survives digestion and infiltrates the human body and attaches to your human DNA and makes your human DNA manifest in non-human ways, which is to say, literally, the more GMO a human being eats, the less human they become. And that's literally.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's very crucial. So, and this is part of what they want. This is all transhumanism. This is all their dark agenda.
And they're probably even, interlacing that with reptilian RNA. Who the heck knows?
Who knows? I mean, you know, and we do know that, like in the vaccines, we do find all kinds of crazy stuff in there. Mm-hmm. You know, like the monkey liver tissue has been found in vaccines, for instance.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. So. I wanted to ask you guys about the those XXs that come in are they part of the sigils or whatever? I think you guys said it was a 66.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. One of the things that Bonnie read, that quote from Fritz Springmeier, he says in that quote that for mind control, they don't necessarily have to manifest the demons outright. They can just put the sigils into the slave's environment and influence them that way. And one of the things that happens to you when you become more conscious is you begin to notice these symbols everywhere. Mm-hmm. You go into a department store and you see $6.66. Right. Such an odd price, right? I mean, why would they do that? Or $9.99, which is the inversion of that. And I like to clarify something because there's been a couple of people who have replied to our interviews thus far. And when I describe in the video and in interviews, describe the XX, I call it Gematria. Technically, Gematria is the study of Hebrew letters, but there is also a form of Gematria which was started by a fellow named Dr. Church, which is called English Gematria. And when he developed English Gematria, he took the word Gematria from Hebrew Gematria, and it's pretty obvious and clear that he did that because his definition of Gematria is prescribing numbers to letters so that you can look at the alphabet in a new way. And so when I call the XX Gematria, that's what I'm referring to. So for all the technical people out there who want to be very technical about things, right. I think that, and there's the Sephirim are the people Sephirim is Hebrew for counters. The Sephirim are the people who use the Gematria so that they could precisely copy the Torah. They were the scribes, and they actually used 8 different methods of Gematria within the Hebrew text. So for all those technical people, I would just say that I think it's okay if we use more than one way to count the English alphabet also. We can call it Gematria. So thanks for that opportunity to clear that up.
Sure. So the XX equals to 66, and then there was another X. It's like you almost see like an X and then like a highlight of an X, so it's almost double. So I thought that I was tripping. It's like, wow, this is like really in your face, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you notice in that particular graphic you're talking about, they actually shoot a light beam right through the X's too, as it comes across. So XX is the symbology among others for 66, because in this form of Gematria, which is not Dr. Church's English Gematria, but another form where the letter A is the number 1, and the letter Z is number 26, and so on and so forth in between, X is the 24th letter of the alphabet. 2 plus 4 is 6, therefore that's how we get the 6 for X.
Sure.
If there's any doubt, like we actually doubted this. We had heard a long time ago, well, Fox equals 666 because F is the 6th letter, O is the 15th letter, so 1 plus 5 is 6, and then again, X is 24th letter, 2 plus 4 is 6. And we're like, oh, that's a bit of a stretch, But we had and just like everything that happens in our life is so spiritual, we ended up having this, right after that happened, we had this, by Spirit answered this doubt. We happened to be at this government building, and there was 2 private cars, just regular cars parked out, but that evidently belonged to a police family, a Satanic police family, as both plates were customized FOP plates. I guess it was a his and hers car there, and one FOP plate was 6660, and the other plate was 6661, so we can see that they did that on purpose. And the truck, there's a car and a truck right next to each other, and because of the government building was for some type of family care or something, so we're real certain that this is a his and hers car, vehicles there, man and wife there. And on the truck, sure enough, they have the Fox logo on the back.
Oh dear.
Yeah, you see the Fox logo, and this is why Fox News, so 666, this is why every time you see a reporter on the news, they have the live in the top left corner, which is evil spelled backward. This is why this is all a reflection of the Luciferian satanic reality that's been created for us by the Archons.
Amazing. And then you guys also mentioned the NFL, meaning Nephilim, right?
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. And by the way, the first TV station in the United States was called W3XK.
Right, which is completely...
So that's WXXXK or W666K.
Yeah, and even W, through this code system, is looked at as VV. And Vav, the letter V for the Hebrew alphabet, also has... Well, the Hebrews have a built-in system automatically that was made with their alphabet of numbers.
Sure.
But Vav, the letter V for them, Vav, it has a numeric value of 6. So when you see W, this is another way of them putting out 66 or the fallen angels. So in W3XK, you literally have 66, the fallen angels, and then 3 X's, which symbolizes the 666 for Satan, followed by the K, which is the middle letter of the alphabet, the 11th letter of the alphabet, and also highly esoteric. So it's really amazing what they do.
Do you think that the Kabbalah symbols and all that is being used by these Illuminati families?
Oh yeah, this is how they talk to each other. For instance, if you, a really great source, I don't like to go too far into this without naming sources because I like to give credit where credit is due. And we learned the majority of our symbolism stuff through a really great guy. He goes by the name Freeman Fly, and his significant other, Jamie. and they are at freemantv.com, and that's a great place to go and learn about all the symbolism and satanic rituals. And basically our work and Freeman's work join hand in hand, in that Freeman has been showing everybody for years now the satanic rituals being performed on the television set, and our work shows that there is a hypnosis and a mind control thing that takes place first, and then the person, once they're in what the Illuminati want them to be in, a frame of mind that they want, then the satanic ritual takes place. So you are actually taking part in the satanic ritual by watching the television.
Wow.
Yeah. We can go on. We may have to do another interview just to keep on covering all this stuff.
Oh, no. I mean, you've got time. I mean, I don't know how much more you want to disclose. I mean, we're here to use up as much as possible, but definitely if you have more to disclose on that, definitely do so.
Well, it's everywhere. It's the entire reality is illusionary. What human beings on this planet call reality is illusionary. Janice used the term an overlay, like a satanic overlay, which is really important too. I think Bonnie might want to talk about some of her life experiences even. Did you want to talk
Sure.
about
Sure, I can talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what happened for me when I was 4 years old, I met the Star People, and started my strange life.
It cracks me up, and it's all four. What the heck?
Isn't that interesting?
That is hilarious.
I have heard that really 4 is like a magic number or something, because people who have the contactees, they seem to start around 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it starts. So basically it's been my whole life, and there's three different categories of entities that I've experienced, and this is the way I categorize it. Number 1 are the Star People, and those are friendly, multidimensional beings that I have seen and interacted with in a different state of consciousness. It does not happen in the physical world. It's more like when I go to sleep and I go out of body and I meet with them. Then there is the aliens, what I call the aliens, who are very negative entities, who I've had. Luckily, I haven't had too many interactions with them, but it's also a non-physical type of thing. And then there is the secret government and the military abductions, the MILABs. And they're pretty similar. It's very confusing. This is all mixed up in my mind, but fortunately, I've been recording it for 26 years. So I have dream books that I've been recording for 26 years. So I have most all of these recorded, and I have very good conscious recall. So basically, the Star People I consider to be family. They are beings of light. They are the ones in the light ships. And I couldn't say exactly where they come from, because, I'm not really sure if they come from another planet.
Right.
Or not. I know that they are multidimensional, and, well, we're multidimensional too. There's different levels to ourself. There's different aspects to ourself, and you can experience your conscious awareness in different states of mind, like on the astral plane or the etheric plane. So, yeah, this has been happening my whole life, and it started out, I went through the typical abduction experience of aliens coming into my room, taking me right out of my physical body is what they do. They take me right out of my bed, right out of my physical body, onto the ship. I went through the physical exams, them taking eggs out of me, the creation of hybrid children, all of that. And that happened in about a 5-year period. Actually, I was around 19 to 24 years old. I went through what I call the Star People School. And at that time, it was so intense for me. I was interacting with the Star People, who were nice and helping me, the negative aliens, and the military abductions.
Wow.
So, yeah, at that time, it was it was so crazy. It was 2 or 3 times a week I would see, one or the other of these people and interacting with them. The military abductions are basically after I would have a visit with the star people, I might wake up for a while, get up, go get a drink or something, go back to sleep, and then there I am with some government agents or military people. And they wanted to ask me, well, what did you do with the star people? What did they say to you? What did they do? And for a while, I told them. I would tell them when they asked me. Mm-hmm. Because I was very young and naive. And after a couple of years, I decided that maybe it wasn't a good idea for me to be telling them. Mm-hmm. So I stopped telling them. And then what started was psychic attacks. Then they wouldn't just come and ask me nicely. Then they would send someone who was trained, a government agent who was trained to do this, to retrieve information. And what they do basically is they try to scare you really bad, mm-hmm. so you don't have any more control over yourself, and they can get this information from you. So how did I know that I was taken by the ETs?
Yeah.
Well,
no. How did the my lab guys know you were taken by?
How did they know? Okay, that's a great question. I think that when this started, when I was 4 years old, what happened was I sat up in my bed one night. It was the middle of the night. Everyone was asleep. I sat up and I saw 2 stick people with huge bulbous heads walking toward the foot of my bed.
Oh, God.
And I screamed and my mother came running, and as she came in, they disappeared. And I cried and I told her what happened and everything. I had a very strange childhood. Anyway, when I was about 19 and I became really aware of this, conscious of what was happening, I sat down with my parents and I told them. They were very supportive of me, and they wanted to know, how do I know these are ETs? And I told them, well, they're definitely not human. So that's how I know they were ETs. They were completely different beings. But how did the government know? I think they've been tracking me. I've definitely been implanted. John and I both have implants in our arms.
That's a huge story, too. Yeah. Pictures, bruises on my arm when I woke up, weird scars on our elbows. At 2 separate times, we couldn't even use our arms part of the time right after this happened because our elbows... For months. Yeah. It's really crazy. I know we're just about out of time.
Yeah.
So there's one big thing I'd like to say, which is, back to, just real quickly, how I explained that when you raise yourself up from matter closer to consciousness, you begin, all the data is here. All of the kingdom of, again, I don't like the word God, but the kingdom of God, the kingdom of the One is right here. It's with us. It's right here. And all the data is here. But it isn't until you raise yourself up in consciousness that you begin to be able to put the pieces together and see things differently. And so by Bonnie and I raising ourselves up as we have and seeing this information that's already right there, but pointing it out to people and helping people to start to think about things in a new way, when you can see the edges of the box, like, for instance, the information about the pyramid or the oldest structures not having language on them, that's the edge of the box. And then you can begin to actually think differently. And so what we want to say is that the awakened people who are researchers and folks like both of you, Ari and Serena, doing this light work to help instantly, this is what you want when you figure these things out. People with love and care in their heart instantly want to reach out to other people, which is why you guys are kind of makeshift radio hosts now, right?
Right.
I mean, that you didn't even really know that you were going to be doing this. But another way to look at this at a place of higher consciousness is that all of us together, all researchers together, we are all light magicians, okay? Bonnie and I just know that we're this, and we are practicing this.
Right.
So that's what you, Ari and Serena, you are also this. And all researchers out there, all the people who went to all these conferences, like the Free Your Mind conference that Bonnie and I went to, we are all light magicians. And if you want to think of it in terms of sort of like the Harry Potter movie, we are the good guys, literally using the most powerful magic, which is love and care in your heart and positive intention through your third eye, against these dark magicians. So this is what's happening. It's a magical battle, a spiritual battle between light and dark, which is happening throughout the entire multiverse, of course. We know that, but we can now see it playing out here more clearly, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very well said. And I want to add to that. I want to say that the way that you explained how these dark forces tell us that we give them consent by doing certain things, even if we're not aware entirely of what we're doing, we give unconscious consent.
Yep.
Right.
Well, what we're doing is we're giving no consent. We are saying no. That's why we're speaking out. That's why we do the radio shows. That's why we have people like you guys on.
That's right.
And why we continue to write and blog and post and do all these things, because we are not giving our consent. We are saying no.
That's right.
And that's why we continue to say, listen to these people. Listen to all of the ways that they are being exposed. Listen to all of the ways where you are giving away your power without really knowing. And they're telling you you're giving away your consent and you're not listening. Learn how this deceitful, crazy mind, twisted mind, is telling you that you're giving them consent, and decide to stand up and say no.
That's right. The authority, the apparent, it's all illusionary, but the apparent authority that is controlling this place is de facto. And de facto means we breathe power into the authority figure. If it wasn't for the consent of all the masses, this de facto illusionary power or authority wouldn't even exist. So we can take the air out of the balloon anytime we want.
Exactly.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep. We're in control.
We are in control. Thank you so much. I mean, we're down to our last couple of minutes. And if you guys can just tell us again all the websites where people can find all the information that you've spoken about today.
You can go to awakenvideo.org, and that is spelled AWAKENVIDEO.org. And you can go to alienabductionhelp.com for help with any contactees or abduction experiences.
Fantastic. Bonnie and John, thank you so much for being our guests today. I would be very honored to have you back and really go into your experiences as well with, your ET experience and all that, because, there's a lot of people just like you. As you know, we've interviewed Eve Lorgan. As a matter of fact, James Bartley's going to be our guest on Saturday. And so, they're talking about, my labs and abductions and things like that, because a lot of people need to know about that. So we would love to discuss your experiences a little bit more. So definitely you are invited to be on our show again. And so everyone that's listened, thank you very much for listening to our show tonight. You have been listening to Shattering the Matrix. I'm your host, Ari Kopel, and you've also been listening to Serena. We're on every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look forward to seeing you again. Serena, did you want to say something before we go? We're good? Okay, good.
Yep, we're good.
All righty. Well, thank you again, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 You've been listening to Shattering the Matrix with your host, Ari Kopel and Serena. Please visit our website, 2012emergence.com. That's 2012emergence.com. Find us on Twitter at Matrix Shattered, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Shattering the Matrix. Listen to archived shows at blogtalkradio.com/Shattering the Matrix. And join us next time for the birth of the new golden era on Shattering the Matrix.